Thanks for letting me do this again. This is a recent case of mine, and this is a 41-year-old woman who is an acupuncturist. So it's interesting, but she kind of speaks the same language. A very, very successful, popular acupuncturist locally who is very busy and works a lot. And she came to me because she's interested in herbalism and she didn't finish the herb training part. She just did the acupuncture part, and knows some basic formulas, but not beyond that. And her primary health goals, she feels like her nervous system has totally changed since she got a concussion a couple of years ago. She fell down a flight of stairs and at work and hit her head on the door below and lost consciousness and had, I'll go into that a little bit more later, but she now feels like she has no, she just doesn't have the kind of resilience that she had before. She finds it very difficult to deal with stressful situations at work that used to just not faze her, and goes kind of easily into a fight or flight response. She also has always had really sensitive skin and really strong reactions to bug bites in particular, like would get huge, and to the point, like she got a spider bite in her 20s that made her legs swell up. She was on crutches, rash all over her body that lasted a month or two. That's later in the case review too, but her foot was swollen up for like 6 months. And so she's had quite severe histamine responses, but lately, and again, just seems like in the past couple of years, although she doesn't think this is related to the concussion, it's like her cystic acne has gotten worse. But she gets these allergic red swellings, especially in her face, like one eye will swell up. Her lips will swell up often and get hot and red and start peeling. Um, things stay swollen for a long time, and acne stuff tends to scar. Bug bites, she has a lot of scars on her legs from that. And she doesn't notice, it's like she can't figure out any rhyme or reason with these allergic reactions. And she feels the heat coming to her head, and then something breaks out, but she does relate it to stress also. Secondary health goal is just general support of her kidneys. She had some kidney stones. So she had this concussion in 2022. She lost her left vision in her left eye for a month. She had reduced cognition. She said, I was a superwoman before I fell, but then it changed her nervous system and sleep issues began. She said she jokes about the event now when she's talking to people, but she internally experiences a lot of PTSD from the event. I wrote agrimony in there because she smiled. She's just like this. And when she talks about it, yeah, she still kind of just like makes light of it. And while she's saying that, I was also like, it feels terrible. And I'm so scared, like of what it did to her, and also what just the remembering the event, which was scary. Like I said, she had kidney stones. She experiences TMJ. She has quite like developed musculature in her jaw, I feel like, more than most people. maybe from that clenching, a history of migraines, and she fractured her left shoulder. Yeah,
Amber, was the TMJ before the fall?
yes,
Okay.
she's had tight neck and shoulder and tension in this area
Okay.
generally as a so right before she had the concussion, she had fallen in the shower and she fractured her left shoulder. She felt like she made it through that and was healing nicely and was almost fully healed when she was at work and fell down the stairs and then got the concussion. It's timeline. Um, she knows she has these heat patterns. She takes an herbal formula when she starts to feel the heat rising, and it helps a little bit, but it doesn't stop um the outbreaks completely. It's oh shoot, I didn't put it in here, but I can show you. I took a picture of it. That's like called heat. It's a Chinese formula called Quell Fire. Um, which has Rehmannia, plantain, gardenia, Chinese skullcap, dongguai, Asian water plantain, bupleurum, Chinese gentian, Chinese licorice. So you have that in there, but she just takes that for like a few days when she starts to feel everything rising.
And does it help? Did you say it doesn't help?
It does help. She says she feels it less intensely. But she typically will still get some sort of skin outbreak after that. A lot of times on her lips. Um, she's taken antibiotics and prednisone, and prednisone is really the only thing that like keeps the skin flares away, but she doesn't want to take it. These are all the supplements she's taking right now. I don't know if I need to read through all of them out loud.
No,
Um,
that's
yeah. So she doesn't think she has any food allergies. It doesn't seem to relate to what she eats. She said one time she thought it might be tomatoes. It's something to do with tomatoes. And so I just keep that in my mind of maybe nightshade stuff. I also told her ashwagandha, which she's taking, is a nightshade, and that, maybe that's not the adaptogen for
well,
her.
it's also warming.
Yeah,
I don't know if she needs warming.
right. Um, yeah. So we talked a little bit about that. She thinks, that might be some environmental triggers, but she also doesn't feel particularly sensitive. Like I always ask in the detergent aisle of the grocery store, like chemical sense, like, do you feel like uncomfortable or that affects you? She says no. Um, she she just feels like there's something maybe that she's not aware of in her environment, in addition to stress, which seems to be a big part. Her mom died of breast cancer when she was 16 years old. There's cancer in the family. Sleeping well in general, but she does have a hard time relaxing to go to sleep. She takes GABA and melatonin. She feels those work really well for her. We talked about sleep hygiene and the transition from work to home, and it tends to be a little late for her. Like she'll often work till 8 p.m. So we just talked about how there are other ways to, rather than just like, okay, now it's time to go to bed, to bring herself down and into another space. And I listed some things that I had her come up with of things that she would um, feel comfortable with and would be good for her. She already started leaving her computer out of her bedroom. Her digestive health, she is chronically constipated, and that began, she said, after her mom passed, she became bulimic for a while and then recovered from that, but then she just constipation began to be her pattern after that. She's done a lot of work around recovery from the eating disorder, and we spoke about tension in general and holding. She speaks a lot about having to hold it together and be the boss at work, and she has a lot of employees, and she can't, like she has to be in calm and in charge for her employees and for her patients, who she just like adores, and she's very generous and giving and compassionate person. But the holding of control and feeling like she can't necessarily express what she really feels, I think is a big part of her pattern, and like relates to the constipation, but also like holding things and onto emotion probably from that time. But then she does say that she has worked through therapy. She feels like she can talk to her husband. She's learned at work to say, I'm going to need some extra support today, but she doesn't tell why, but she's like asks for extra. And that's as far as she kind of feels like she can go at work.
Amber, I have a
Yeah.
quick question. Did the skin, I think, I don't know if it's skin more than immune response.
Yeah.
Acne and all that, so that it can be skin slash immune. Um, did that start, was that going on before eating disorder?
Um, I don't really know. She said she always since childhood had sensitive skin. She said, and she said she would react to like, yeah, to bug bites always in particular. And then I think she started getting hormonal acne, and that would like last a long time. But she said that this sort of very much more frequent and skin responses and seemingly out of nowhere, and no matter what she's eating, if she's feels like she's eating really well, or she feels like she's kind of taking steps to deal with stressors, it just
Okay.
keeps happening.
So sometimes and we'll come back to this, but a lot of times when there's something that reactive,
Mhm.
um, you say, did you have it at 5? Did you have it when you began your cycle? And then you just look for things that might have been a trigger. And then it sounds like she had good bowel movements up until her 20s.
Mhm.
That true?
That's what she said. Yeah, that the chronic constipation began in her 20s.
And how long was the bulimia?
It sounded like it sounded like it was a few years, like the end of her teens. She didn't say exactly, but she said in her 20s she'd, recovered from that, and she has done a lot of work since. She's 41, yeah, now. And so she's like, that feels like way in my past, and I feel like I have a good relationship to food, although she always forgets to eat now because she's so busy, and
Right, right.
said she
Well,
enjoys food and she enjoys a good meal, but she just doesn't, if it's not in front of her, then
right. So even though emotionally she's passive, physiologically, we have to go back and see
yeah.
how much reparation needs to happen,
Mhm.
and deficiency. So we're looking at the tissue state deficiency, with the eating and then purging and nutrition. Um, so, okay.
Yeah. And yeah. So she also did a liver cleanse recently.
Great soap note, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Great soap note, yeah.
She did a liver cleanse with Chinese herbs and a modified diet and protein shakes in the morning. Uh, she said she felt really great, like, but more than anything, it just brought her attention to food and like the importance of eating better and eating breakfast. Um, more than it having any real, it didn't seem to have any noticeable effect on her allergic reactions or anything like that. I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't,
I just think gut permeability and like,
right,
you know, something going on there where her body's basically going into this, yeah, like autoimmune kind of
right.
place. Um, even though liver, yes, heat rising and that kind of pattern. Um, her her food, yeah, generally healthy, but forgets to eat. Um, yeah, we can come back to that. She does crave sweets. Um, there are still headaches about 3 times a week, feel stressed induced. The pain goes from the back to the front, usually more on the right side, but not always. The back's a little, feels a little swollen on the back occiput. She recently got a neck massage that triggered a migraine and caused her to lose vision again in her left eye for just like 20 minutes. But there's something going on there, it feels like.
Has she seen a neurologist?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Probably a good idea. Um, Also, when she feels kidney pain, she takes a certain supplement that makes the pain go away, and she feels like she has that under control. This is the supplement. Um, she has a very regular cycle. Um, she bleeds for 5 days. It's heavier at the beginning, some clotting at the end. She got a copper IUD 2 years ago. Her period is heavier now and occasionally experiences irregular spotting throughout the month. She thinks from the IUD. She went through IVF a while ago and stored her eggs, and she wants to try implantation at the end of this year. But because of that, she recently got her hormones tested, and she said everything was normal, even excelling for her age. The doctor said very healthy ovulation and hormone levels, and she seemed to feel very proud of this, and that indicates, generally that her health, is on the right
Yeah, she needs some
track.
good news.
It's good.
Yeah. But why, what, did she have difficulty conceiving? I mean, why
I
the
think
IVF?
I think she's a type of person, she's very organized and very type A, and I think she probably felt like she wanted to, I didn't go into that with her, but my guess is that she wanted to make sure she could have kids when she was ready. And she's a career-driven person.
Okay.
But I need to know, I mean, I should have gotten the date of the IVF and more about that. There was a lot that came out in this consult,
Yeah,
and
there's a lot. There is a lot.
so
Good
there
news,
wasn't,
good news.
yeah. So and I would say, yeah, well, I won't get there yet. Okay, so she doesn't drink or smoke. She doesn't exercise per se, but she's on her feet all day at the clinic. Her practice with her patients feels like her creative outlet. She's very passionate about them. And this is, she loves her work. She's emotionally just very distressed that she's lost her ability to stay calm and cool under pressure. She says everything affects her now. Now I feel it all. Difficulty bouncing back. She liked having a protective barrier against the outside world, mainly from other people's emotions. Now she feels like if people are having problems around her, she can't respond and she has to go in the bathroom and take a deep breath and just like recalibrate. And she feels unsure of herself with all these skin problems because she feels like she needs to present to the world, and she feels like just self-conscious when her skin is breaking out or her eyes swollen, or and she's not what a healthcare practitioner should look like. She does all these, and she also does acupuncture on herself. She does massage. She has massage therapists there. She does laser treatments of, I'm not sure what the lasers are integrated into her acupuncture practice. She does some vitamin infusions sometimes, which is also, yeah. So she kind of like just has generalized anxiety around work and running a business. It centers in her chest. Like she kept saying, I have to take a deep breath. Again, that reminded me of the agrimony thing we were talking about the other day. She wants to be able to go with the flow again. I wrote liver. Positive spiritual life, strong spiritual life, very supportive husband. So I wrote that she's, an overachiever, logical thinker, compassionate. She has this pitta mind, but also the vata love for doing many things at once and movement and creating. She lacks appetite and has like this newer sensitivity and that vata thing of heightened nervous system, I think, state. Her tongue was pale and swollen, not as red as I might have expected. So I see stagnation and dampness. There was a line down the center and a kind of white coating all over. It wasn't really scalloped. It just looked swollen, noticeably swollen. Her complexion is somewhat pale, but it's hard to tell. She wears foundation to cover acne scarring. She's blonde. She's, you know, attractive. She has some darkness around her eyes, looks, like she works a lot. Heart-shaped face. Her jawline is a little uneven, and like I said, like kind of bigger musculature on one side, I think from clenching. She smiles a lot, bright eyes, blue eyes. Her voice is high and a little tense, but like uses this yoga voice kind of, like she's like used to, I think, talking in this like way with her clients and staying positive, and but I can hear like a little like tension around it. Fair hair, thick, maybe it's wavy, but it's blown out, like um wide mouth. She sits up really tall. She looks like she has a central like pole from where she moves, like that. she's warm. She uses physical touch. I've seen her with clients. She hugs them a lot. She's yeah, that's something I noticed. So I feel like I need to like cool. I didn't actually finish all of this, but cooling, but at the same time, like warming up digestive fire, supporting elimination pathways and lymph, nervines for sure, adaptogens, herbs and foods that are helpful with, the histamine response and mast cell. I wrote some herbs that came to mind for different reasons. I feel she should eat breakfast and eat regularly throughout the day. I think bone broth would be nice for her to get nutrients and to support with the collagen and skin healing in general, internally and externally. I talked with her about somatic exercises and breathing techniques, to utilize maybe one or thing over and over again that can help train her nervous system out of this heightened state. And craniosacral instead of massage, maybe much more gentle. Eventually, I wrote those host defense capsules because she talked about wanting more to gain clarity in her mind again. But that brain fog, like, I just feel like there's a lot of pointing to that gut permeability maybe, and like I wrote Baikal skull cap also because of its the feeling that I have that it's autoimmune this pattern, and I feel like that's one that is really helpful with that. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, great. So let me hear from other folks. Thoughts, questions, responses.
Amazing summary, Amber. That was just fabulous note taking.
I'll share just something that felt intuitive about the bulimia and the energetics of like that upward, like that energy that's upward and outward that's supposed to be going downward and outward, and like the force of that. And it made me think, it just sort of correlating with that, like the way that this pattern of heat in her body like flushes up to her face. And I thought, like, I wonder how, if at all, that could be like correlated, you know? Yeah. Just
Yeah.
Oh, in Chinese medicine, they have this idea.
Hey B, do you want to try your you've got that thing again.
Oh, sorry.
Try that. Yeah. Seems like you figured out how to fix it though. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah, sorry. Is that better now?
Yeah.
Better.
Sorry. In Chinese medicine, they have this idea of the triple burner, which is basically the organs that correspond to above the diaphragm, between the diaphragm and the pelvic diaphragm, and then under the pelvic diaphragm. And the idea is that your genitals generate this essential life force, which then feeds up to the middle burner, the digestive system, which then causes the fluid in the lungs to kind of steam and distill down, circulate. And so
And so
one way of
how would that apply with this client?
well, it's too much, right? It's like there's overheat and there's not the circulation and the cooling down, and so she's getting too dry in the bottom and too dry and too hot and in at the top. So that was just something that popped
Yeah.
into my mind. And the other thing that popped into my mind was a thing that Delish Claire talks about a lot. I may have said this last time, I don't know. She talks about the in a complex case to look to the epithelia. So she has a list of 4 of them. There's the first one is obviously the gut epithelium, but then there's also the blood-brain barrier, the placental barrier, and the cardiovascular endothelium. So anyway, so when you were talking about leaky gut, I was like, yeah, totally seems like we need to address the gut barrier first, but then also maybe the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, I thought about that too a bit, and also gotu-kola in the sense of microcirculation and skin healing kind of stuff. But yeah, that's interesting.
So my understanding, and I could be wrong, I'm not an expert in TCM. I think it's the kidneys that are the fire under the cauldron, and the kidneys create the steam, and then the steam moistens the lungs.
Right, which
And
then does, yeah.
kidneys hold down the lungs. And sometimes people think the generative organs, are part kidneys, but I think my understanding was the kidneys are the firewood underneath the cauldron.
Hmm.
Okay, lots here, lots here. So I sent Justine a video of a woman who has done kind of groundbreaking work on concussions. And it's a therapeutic, chiropractors can do it. I would definitely go to the concussion here. If she's losing her vision, I can't believe she hasn't been to a neurologist. So how we hold our clients isn't a judgment. I am not judging her choices. I am reading that as either one, she's really confident, she's trusting, she's assured that she will move through this okay. And 20 minutes without my vision would have me in a CAT scan, to tell you the truth, even though I've had a concussion and I know it's a concussion. That's alarming for me. So with the Vata, it's kind of an out of body. And there's a lot of kind of out of body here. Like she wants to look good, but what are her practices? And this is an evolution. She's young. Like are we practicing what we preach? Maybe when we die well, and we finally arrive. Okay, I'm a really good herbalist. I died well. Also, my question is, you say her clients give her joy, and then yet her work is really exacting a tremendous amount, and she's very stressed. And so I always look at Chiron, I always look at the wounded healer, who are we saving here? And I'm there. That was my original, that was part of healer's work, to look at that. And that's not your role with her possibly, but it's holding. So it's like, when is your vacation? When is your time off? And it's not doing Ashtanga yoga. That is not restorative and resting. And it's like gazing at the daffodils that are coming up, or, so you're looking at the energetics of definitely the Vata. Bulimia, oftentimes, just as Justine was saying, it's kind of upward. it is a detachment in some ways of the corporeal. And so this is, I think, one person who, the last thing I would have her do is a liver cleanse because
Mhm.
she's so deficient.
Mhm.
You don't want to cleanse the body when there's a deficiency, unless there's an outright toxicity, if you will. So, she's quote unquote doing all the right things. All those supplements, all, the different practices. But one, it's the gut, clearly working on her gut. I mean, to be constipated for, how old is she now? 30?
She's 41. Yeah, and she takes
20 years of constipation.
yeah, and she
That's-
takes aloe,
But
which
that's
can,
still constipation.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, oh, well, they have bowel movements now if they're taking something. Unless it's fiber, unless, you can do whatever you want. I don't want to seem so autocratic here.
No.
But it's so funny. It's like, oh, bowel movements are fine. Well, stop the aloe. Aloe is incredibly irritating. That's why it works for bowel movements. So, and if she's not eating, there isn't any fiber. So I don't think food or even bran muffins or bran or something like that, that's not a problem. But when we're taking supplements, ideally our state of health should be with nothing but air, water, food, and love. That's it. But who's there? I mean, we all need help from our friends in herbs. So I would definitely help her find somebody to work with a concussion,
Mhm.
because that, that inflammation, that if she's still having impact from it, that means that inflammation is still happening and that won't go away. And there's also a balance thing, and it could just be life, but falling in a shower and falling down the steps. And again, I just can't reiterate too much. We are not judging, we're just reading the energetics and the patterns. And, that grounding, walking slowly, walking with, whatever that is, helping her practice. So when you said spirituality was really important, what does she align with?
She aligns with, she didn't say her, she said she goes to church and um, prayer is a regular way that she engages with, like, I mean, she talked about it as that she also, when she goes in the bathroom, um, and she is sort of centering herself, and she also does that through prayer, and she does that with her husband at night too. And I think she, I guess I wrote it down, like, I feel like she is
Well, it
open
doesn't
to,
matter.
yeah,
Is she engaged?
yeah,
Where's her source of nourishment?
right.
Where's
I
the
think that is
peace?
a source, I guess, yeah, that is a source of nourishment for her.
Okay.
Um, and we did talk a little bit about, well, is it necessarily like the framing of like being able to feel everything, like that actually can be a gift. And this thing of being forced to slow down, like you can't sustain the thing, she can't sustain the thing she was doing before. She acknowledged that it's like she, on one level, really wants to get back there, but on another level, like understands that she was moving too fast and that, and mentioned something about getting her practice set up in a way where there's more delegation of certain things, et cetera.
Okay, well, that would be fabulous, you know,
Right.
'cause if it doesn't change, and then, so rhodiola is very drying, so you just really want to look for drying. Is her skin dry?
Yeah, yes, it's combo kind of thing, but it gets the allergic reactions go towards drying and peeling.
Okay, but she has, so I know I'm skipping around, but she has a normal cycle, right? Okay.
And apparently always has, and has not really had any issues with cramping and pain or,
Okay, so that's huge. So that's
yeah.
a really good constitution. That's a good thing to hold on to. That her cycle is strong and regular, and that's good kidneys. So I would really, but go to the gut, like you said, and really look at healing the gut, and maybe treat it like leaky gut syndrome with the antibiotics and the steroids, and um you know, you could definitely work with some relaxing bitters with this to help with bowel movements. um I mean, if she's not eating, she's not going to have a bowel movement. You know, there's nothing to move. And shakes, you know, that's one thing. So really trying to help create an appetite, and that appetite will be very grounding. And while this might not really be an energetic per se, um, I'm trying to think of, you know, you could definitely do like one of my favorite, and I might have used this before because it's my favorite and it's super simple. Tea for leaky gut is the plantain, agrimony, marshmallow, kind of demulcent, healing the lining. Agrimony kept coming up. Um, uh, you know, maybe chamomile can be in there. You know, that is cooling. This tends to be drying, but you know, the marshmallow is moistening. And so you never want to take something away until you've had at least a good month of building up. So if she could drink, and maybe other nervines that you'd want to put into the tea, I wouldn't make it too complicated. But I think she's taking enough supplements, and I think she might be taking too many. But I think a tea would be a great way to get nutrition in her.
Yeah.
And whether that's borage, you know, borage is for the overworked. It's kind of that Rhamania buplarum in Chinese medicine. Uh, and, you know, minerals, you know, good high minerals. So starting kind of simple. And what else? Does anybody have like kind of the gut healing tea? Looking at bitters, um, to help calm her and to help stimulate an appetite.
Yeah,
Um,
how do you feel about calendula, calendula for the leaky gut situation?
yeah, that's a beautiful herb.
Yeah, I had that too, like want that.
Yeah, yeah.
I also she said her husband really likes to cook, and would be on board with like just making sure she has food to take to work. And I also suggested like some nutrient dense, like, you know, nut butter balls with flax and different things, you know, to like grab between patients so that she has other things besides her lunch salad. yeah, if
Yeah.
he's willing to prepare some.
Absolutely warm. She needs slight, warm cooked. This isn't a raw food kind of need here, I don't think.
Yeah.
Does she run hot or cold, even though she's presenting with all this heat?
Well, she, I mean, she doesn't really know, I don't think. She's like she feels that heat thing come up pretty regularly, but like, yeah, the deficiency is clear, and also her tongue like really looks so pale. I feel like it's just like she probably does have more of like a cold pattern in general, stagnant and cold.
So, right, which is tricky. And,
Mhm.
it's always confounding. And just be aware, you might give the wrong, you know, you might heat somebody up and they're like, oh my God, I'm worse. And you're like, okay, well, I got that wrong. Let's
Mhm.
do this. Because false heat, false cold. And so you just have to be gentle with yourself, and, it's complicated. So one thing is she's got to get her gut no matter what. So if you start there, that's going to take a while.
Mhm.
That's going to be over a period of time.
Mhm.
And is it aloe gel or aloe capsules?
Capsules, and she said that's the thing that works for her. She's regular when she takes it, and she takes it and a couple caps at night. And I'm also curious about what you said about it being really irritating, because I kind of thought it was more just like a very bitter plant that's also soothing.
Well, on the skin and topically it is, but sometimes internally, especially over 20 years.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if she's been taking it for that long. That's what she's found helps the
To work.
most.
Yeah.
But
So she's going to stay on it until we can have, kind of repattern her cycle.
yeah.
And that the liver, working on the liver, is that energetic of control.
Mhm.
And that's that whole anger, helping to release the anger now. And it's the bitter, it's not a liver cleanse, and that's different. And it's springtime. This is a perfect time to be working on the liver. Um, uh, yeah. And liver, gallbladder is the decision maker, and the liver helps the vision. So, helping her repattern her day that is much more supportive. So it's definitely the gut, it's working on the liver, and then looking at the general deficiency. And you could do those mushrooms, you could do all of that if you do the snacks in a ball. I think that's the kidney deficiency with for a number of reasons. But I mean, it's great her sleep is good. Um,
What
and
is, oh,
go ahead.
long-term use of melatonin?
I don't know. I thought I knew, and then I
Okay.
don't
I,
know.
I keep feeling like
Yeah,
back
I
and
think it's better than long-term use of Ativan, I can tell you that.
right.
Jody Noe, who I love, and I send all my serious cancer clients to her. She's like melatonin for life because it's anti-cancer.
Hmm.
So, it used to be the old, well, you take exogenous melatonin, it's gonna shut down your own production. Sleep is healing. It doesn't sound like she uses it every night. It seems like she uses the GABA every night, or I
I think
didn't,
she does a combo.
every night. Okay. Well, I think all of that's fine until we get to the core nourishment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's the food. And
Yeah.
it's great her husband cooks, but I'd much rather have food than smoothies.
Yeah.
And so if you did those yummy Zoom balls or whatever, you could put the root powder, the astragalus, the eleuthero, you can do a powder Zoom ball, if you will. But the thing about those is you need really good digestive energy.
Right.
That's raw root.
Right.
And this woman needs cooked.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking with bone broth too, is that there's something, if she doesn't have an appetite, at least it's like warm and nourishing and has
Absolutely.
protein and has minerals.
Absolutely. And so that's that kidney deficiency. And she can have a minimum of 2 cups a day.
Mhm.
So a lot of times I'll prescribe, you can say, well, why don't you bring bone broth into your life? And then it fades because she's a
Right.
busy woman. And so 2 cups a day. And when you're tired of looking at it, cook your quinoa in it, cook your rice in it. Just make sure bone broth is a staple for her if appetite is hard.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, because I think that bulimia is a real pivot point.
Mhm.
And that nervous system, like eating disorders, are so intense on the nervous system.
Yeah.
So the one I would recommend supplement is a good B complex. And you
Mhm.
might want a methylated B complex because there might be a methylation issue here. Can she break things down and process?
She
I
did say she has the MTFR. Is that what it is? Gene.
right.
So she does have
The,
it.
the motherfucker gene variant.
That's how I remember it. And then I'm like, what is motherfucker? How do you abbreviate it? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. But what else? Any other comments or questions?
Um,
Oh, that's so interesting, B. Dream tolerance. I don't know
Because
what
it
that
gives you
means.
very intense memories of your dreams
Hmm.
if you take it at that high dose. So normally if you're taking melatonin just for sleep, you'll take 3 milligrams at a time.
They're upping it to 5 now in a lot of supplements.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. But they started at 3.
Right.
Right. Okay.
um, I, sorry, I'm just copying that so I remember.
Yeah, that's fine. Craniosacral is big time. Good for you for
Uh.
working in practice better. Good for you.
I mean, it's helpful. Um, I I was wondering about the Quell Fire supplement, that I read to you.
Mhm.
Romania, you said I don't use that very much. I'm curious if that's something that it's helpful for her, but she only seems to take it like occasionally when she's feeling something coming on. And I'm curious if this formula is something that maybe would be something she should take regularly instead of the Ativan or whatever that other one is.
Right.
The Adrenavan with the rhodiola. Um, and you eludes her.
Right. So here she's treating her kidneys. That's what adrenaline is.
Right.
Anytime modern supplementals are looking at the adrenal, that's Chinese kidney. And so that's foundation.
Okay.
That's the bone broth, that's the roots, that's rest. There's no adaptogen that'll replace rest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess people get help by them. There's a million supplements out there. But what I would do is I would probably tell her to finish that unless she likes it, unless she stops it and she's fatigued. But again, you don't want to be running on adaptogens.
Mhm.
This isn't a normal life, if you will. If it's in place of life-saving drugs, then that's phenomenal. That's a miracle that we can use that. But you don't want your health from supplements.
Yeah.
So, but these are all holding her together and there's some placebo going on. So, you know, I don't know why she's taking CoQ10. You know, that for me, that's primarily heart issues, statin drugs, you know. So, and these all take a lot of energy to digest.
Mhm.
So she can maybe finish them out, and see what helps. I wouldn't take the aloe away. I mean, it might be 4, 5, 6 months,
Mhm.
or she takes one aloe away.
Mhm.
This is going to be a gradual weaning, because this is almost like laxative dependency now.
Mhm.
There are, I think, don't quote me, I'll have to look it up. Are there anthraquinones in aloe? I have to look that up.
There
Uh,
are.
there are.
So it's, I was thinking about this because I was also thinking about your comment about how drying it is. And the area immediately under the skin of the leaf is very rich in anthraquinones. But for instance, Koreans like to scrape out the gel and put that in drinks, and that's mucilaginous and soothing to the gut. So you have to be very specific about whether you're getting the inner lining of the leaf, which is extremely bitter and drying and has anthraquinones in it, and the gel, which doesn't have the anthraquinones and is more mucilaginous.
And then Korean ginseng, I don't know. I mean, lots of adaptogens, you know, you just have to be careful. Are they warming? And can she digest them? You know, is she really taking them in? That's why I just think teas are such a great way for her. And it's really going to prompt her self-treatment.
Yeah.
Fabulous. She has a partner that cooks. That's fabulous. He can pack her a lunch, you know, however that works. But I think teas, see if she can make the tea. That's her ritual for the day. That's her self-love. And so we want to kind of quell the hyper reaction of her immune system. And
Mhm.
that's kidneys, as far as I'm concerned. Or kidney energy,
Kidney.
kidney
Yeah.
adrenal. Yeah. Oh, so my last thing I want to say, because I know it's time to hop. I would probably, if I'm going to use any adaptogens, I would probably go for lion's mane, reishi, and those mushrooms like you listed for her brain.
Mhm.
And really, again, go back to that concussion.
Yeah. Um,
And so Justine, did that YouTube come through? Do you know?
Yeah, I did receive an email from you, so I can share that
Okay.
in our discussion group.
Okay.
what about, I mean, in sarsaparilla, like, I feel like it's like building and clearing and at the same time, and like, um, is not heating, or, you know, like it drains heat, but it's not like, depleting. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, it's a spring tonic. You know, you could put it in the bitter formula as a tincture. You could add it to the tea if you want. But I think that white tongue is going to her gut.
Mhm.
That's kind of that cold and stagnation.
Mhm.
So I keep going back there. So here's the thing, you need to map it out. Because when
Mhm.
you have somebody this complex, it's hard to pick and choose.
Mhm.
That's why I keep going back. Well, foundation is just the digestive. No matter if they have cancer, no matter what's going on, you got to get the gut right.
Yeah.
So work with the gut, work with the bitter, see what she's like in a month, and then go from there. And then looking at the bitters, putting in blue vervain. She's got blue vervain all over her. Just the anxiety, working it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Totally.
and motherwort and some yellow duck. Definitely bring in yellow duck.
What do you think about, but yellow dock? I don't know. Rich talks about being careful of it with people who've had kidney stones.
Oh, because the oxalates? Good point. Does she know the origin of the kidney stones? Is it in her family?
I don't know.
She could have been dehydrated.
Yeah, definitely.
Does she know what type of stone?
I can ask her. I don't think yeah, that was me forgetting to ask that.
No, that's all right. I mean, that's why you write soap notes, because you realize what you don't have.
Yeah.
So that's part of the plan. So under your P, it's also follow-up questions,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to forget them.
Yeah.
So if you were to take out yellow duck, maybe you could put in Oregon grape, another berberine, maybe a
Mhm.
gentian, maybe an artichoke. But we really want to try to get her liver releasing the bile so that it has a bowel movement.
Yeah. Okay.
And oil.
Oh, yeah.
Olive oil, more oil in the food.
That's what I was thinking too, because also she said, I mean, she drinks a lot of water and I feel like it's more of and she has like some stagnant fluids. It's less about moistening with water than oil. I mean, it's less about, like, I feel like oil is important here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with the vata. That's grounding.
Right.
That's grounding.
Yeah.
And that's nourishment through the skin.
Yeah. We did talk about that too, because she thought like she likes it when she likes essential oils and for her husband to rub them into her feet. And I was thinking sesame oil, like, or something, something grounding oil
Yeah.
to put it for that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I do have to go to work. Thank you. This is
All
so
right.
great.
Yeah, well, how many more do we have, Justine?
Only one.
Oh, one more, dang. Okay, well, just always know that, when I hear stories, they kind of live in me. Keep me posted on her, Amber. Like, just send me an email and say, oh, we blew it. It didn't work, or, however that goes. Because follow-ups are the juice of it,
Yeah.
that's the meat of it. But then it's like, wow, that's so beautiful soap note, really well done, very clear. And so we have one more. So good. I will really look forward to that. And again, thank you so much, Justine, for inviting me into your circle. Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, we get so much from it.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. So whatever you want to do with the next one, whether it's just a big Q&A, whether it's a case study, you guys decide. I'm yours.
Okay, yeah, Tamara actually has already signed up to do a case study for that one, so we'll hear from her next month.
Okay, great. And then let me say this, if at all tomorrow you can send it out ahead of time, we can read it. And I know there's confidentiality, but take out, and then we don't have to spend so much time reading it. And then we can hop into therapeutics and then down different rabbit holes and all around the place. And there's nothing wrong going through it slowly. I think that's very helpful as well, but you all decide what would serve you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
No, yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Happy month.
Yeah, see you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.